thought Alexander technique was just a posture thing. Turns out it is a mindset thing, and it helps not just with, okay, so if muscle tension is body conflict, like you've got two different muscles that are kind of both tensed up, and because they're pulling in opposite directions, and that's why it's tense instead of moving. It's also indicative of mind tension. And so if you... And I think it's actually indicative of specific mind tension. As in if you've got... Like basically because different body language is associated with different mind states, like shyness is associated with being small, and anxious is kind of like that, and then confidence and stuff is kind of more associated with filling the space and just kind of being okay with moving. I guess there's like a reserved thing where you're very still. Like if you've seen these people who never move their head, and who just kind of, like, whenever they're talking they, but that's like, or they kind of move along particular axes. So I suspect that muscle tension, including like whether it's your shoulder or whether it's your lower back or something like that, I suspect that different muscle tensions refer to different types of internal mental conflict. What is going on here? Oh, she's singing for him. Have I interrupted a serenade, or is this a group thing? Can I sit down? Is there a way of sitting down in Animal Crossing? Oh. She's pretty good, isn't she? It's probably rude to actually talk while she's just singing. There are loads of balloons that I don't want to pop because they are boring Easter eggs. This is what this game is now. It's Easter egg land. Does that imply that you can release muscle tension by resolving a mental conflict and vice versa? Yes, I think so. I think there's a thing, I don't know if you've seen this, but when someone has an epiphany, or like a big realization or a transformation, or they suddenly realize that everything is okay after all, then you see not only like do they have a kind of a shift in their ideas, but their whole body like relaxes, or changes, or like something, like you see this sort of a glow or a sparkle. Or a kind of, or a softening. So that's going from mental release to physical release. Like basically, hey, it's okay, you don't have to tense up anymore. Usually with some associated idea, because like just saying, hey, you don't have to tense up, like why wouldn't I have to tense up? I tense up for a reason. But then there's relaxing muscles leading to relaxing tension of the mind, and I think it's something like a feedback mechanism. I don't know which one is easier or more common, or whether it depends on the person. But certainly with my very limited, mostly Twitter-based experience of Alexander technique, anyone who's done any Alexander technique will know how absurd that sounds, because it's such a movement-based thing. But today is at the moment it's Corona land, so we can't go and get classes. Anyway, so from my limited experience, it seems that if you are aware of your body in certain ways, and you consciously do things to relax your body, then there's a thing where the mind follows as well. So okay, so I can feel some tension in my body, so let's try this live. Yeah, and then there's a thing of um, expanding your awareness to be not just based on the thing that you're concentrating on. So I was sort of concentrating on the game, sort of concentrating on what I was saying. Oh, he's at my house. Why are you at my house? Would you like a bug? I know you would. He loves bugs. I love him. Just gonna give him a bug, because that's kindness in this game. Here you go, here's a centipede. Definitely not a snack. You're a centipede. What was I saying? Something about awareness. Oh yeah, right, okay, so aware of playing the game, aware of I was just completely taken by Flick in that moment, so everything else was a blur. But if I kind of expand it out, I'm sort of more. I feel more at ease now, I think, because like, well, I've definitely expanded it to include not only the game but also the computer screen, or the little dot where the webcam is. I should get a proper camera, but never mind. And it's easy. Let's see. I can definitely expand it out to some degree in front of me. It's actually it's interesting. I'm finding it much difficult to do this awareness expanding. Like, okay, so just to explain this awareness thing, oh, I've changed my flag incidentally. The usual thing is whatever we're focused on, we're kind of like, you know, so you're on your phone and you're just kind of like there, and you're not really aware of anything except the screen. And then you can, I don't know if I can multitask this. And this is all entirely from Michael Ashcroft's Twitter, by the way. This is my understanding of it. So you can be aware of the screen and what's on the screen, and then you can be aware of kind of what's around the screen. And then you can expand it out to the space between you and the screen, and then it's like, whoa, I'm a person and I'm holding this. It's really difficult to describe this, the kind of the feeling you get, but it's this kind of spaciousness, and you're kind of incorporating all of the information of everything around you. From personal experience, if I have muscle tension and I consciously relax shoulders, for example, I notice that they're tense after a short time again, so I wouldn't say that you can directly release mental tension just by relaxing your muscles. Yeah, I guess that it's not a direct or a straightforward process, but I would have thought that first of all, the more you practice it, then the more kind of, I don't know, you'll get better at it. But yeah, I think there is it wasn't just the posture stuff. Like, okay, so awareness is one side of it. So I guess that's a more mental side of it. But there's also a kind of how you hold intentions, and whether you're it's something like whether you're inexplicitly intending to tense your muscles. So, like I say, you tense your muscles for a reason. So if you just try and untense them, then you're untensing them for the sake of untensing them, or you're untensing them because I want to be relaxed now. But the thing is, there was a thing that was causing you to not be relaxed in the first place. So it must, I suppose it must be coupled with how to think about tension, or doing something different, as in not just different physically, but a different way of thinking about, like, do I actually need to tense? And so the idea that that Michael Ashcroft on Twitter talks about is this thing that you could call non-doing, or I can't remember there are a bunch of synonyms for it, but basically the idea is we're always kind of doing things, and sort of trying to do things, and we've got a goal and we're heading towards the goal, and we're really focused on that, and everything else kind of like sort of fades away because we're focused on it. And then so that's doing. And then there's a thing which is doing, and by the way, forgive me for the people who've heard me talk about this like 3 times already, because I've been talking about this a lot lately, but for the people who maybe haven't heard it. So then you've got doing nothing, which is just kind of like sitting there. But then there's something that isn't quite doing nothing. It's not just sitting there. It's not just like an absent. It's not. It's more. It's It's sort of like letting your awareness. Okay, this sounds really wanky, but it's like letting your awareness expand to include other stuff that you could be doing or not doing. Or to put it another way, if you think of doing like sort of like goal-oriented, like, okay, I'm intending to do this, and there's a sense in which I'm not going to revise my plan, I'm quite focused on it, I like, if other stuff gets in my way, then I'm slightly annoyed. And it's a kind of inflexible way of sort of navigating yourself in the world. And then there's not doing that, or non-doing, which is you might have intentions to do things that are kind of like softly held. And so it's like, let's see, what's an example of this? Like, I have a vague intention to pick all the weeds on my island, but if there's something interesting that I discover on the way, then I'm going to explore that. And if I was just dead set on picking up all of the weeds on my island, I'd be more... I don't know, would I be more rigorous? I don't know, I feel like you can be rigorous while doing this non-doing thing. But it's a more playful kind of rigor. It's like, if I happen to pick up this pen, then that's okay. But I don't have to pick it up. I think I've actually got all the weeds on my island. There we go. I would say that was more of an unconscious process. I wouldn't necessarily call that non-doing. You can affect the mind via the body, presumably, but a change of posture won't solve an external problem like rent. It wouldn't solve an external problem like rent, but it would solve an external problem like being... oh god, I'm actually chopping down that tree. I didn't actually want to do that. Okay, I need to get a better axe, and by that I mean a worse axe that doesn't chop things quite so well. So it would solve problems like dancing, I suppose, like being more natural in dancing. Things like, yeah, being more natural on camera. When you're recording a WhatsApp audio message and you keep re-recording it like lots of times because you sound kind of weird or forced, but you want to express something, you want to express your emotion or something, but like whenever you do it, then it just doesn't, like, because you're thinking too much about it. If you do this sort of relaxing non-doing thing, then that just you can get into a better state that way. Hello, Unended Quest. I'm glad that you joined us. And yes, of course, listening is absolutely cool. I don't think of the body as being part of the mind, but rather as one's ideas subconsciously affecting the body in an automatic way. Automatic way? I'm not sure. I mean, it can be automatic, but it can also be non-automatic. The body is part of the mind in the sense that it's... I mean, like, in a sense, paper and pen is part of the mind. The body is... but it's more than that, though, because there's a... You have a feedback mechanism between your body and your mind. Like, so you've got sensations and feelings are kind of your communication pathway to your inexplicit ideas. Kind of like getting a third-person glimpse of yourself and what you're doing. Yes, exactly. Yeah, oh man, have you ever tried filming yourself? That's informative, I'll tell you. It's like how a lot of people don't like this the sound of their voice recorded, or at least they used to. I wonder whether now with audio clips people are getting more used to it. But it's, I mean, just like with recording, it's sort of like if an audio clip is somewhat disturbing for people, then a video clip is very disturbing, or can be. Depending how narcissistic you are, or how at ease in your body you are, or how I don't know, comfortable. But it also does indicate things that you might not have noticed in terms of like whether you are nervous or how nervous you are, or other states of mind like that. Sounds like VR. In what way? Have you read Waking Up by Sam Harris? Part of it, but not all of it. And I've liked... I don't agree with all of it, but I enjoy it. Wu Wei! Yes, I was going to say that. Yes, exactly. So, Wu Wei is this idea from Taoism, which is it something like effortlessness or non-doing, or it's sort of there's this very nice video on YouTube that explains it, where there's a story This is like a third-hand story from an original source, but basically that there's a story of someone who is a swordsman, and he completely effortlessly cuts up a an ox or something, or a bison. And when asked, well, how did you do that? Like, that was just like, you just went like that, and now it's all gone, and what, like, and your blade is still sharp. What's going on there? And he said, oh well, I cut between the spaces between the bones and the muscles and the ligaments, so I didn't actually cut into any bone or muscle or ligament, or bone or ligament or something like that. I just cut kind of in between. So so why is this non-doing? Like, why is this related? I think it's because yeah, it's to evoke this thing where this almost dance-like feel of it, this sort of very natural, just kind of like being aware of all of the aspects of the situation and then doing the easy, effortless thing. Do you think emotions can be mismatched to a particular situation, or are they always a consequence of particular ideas? E.g., could there be a situation which you interpret as good but you feel sad or terrible about it? Yeah, I would say that you can have a bunch of different and contradictory ideas on a topic, and it could be that you have one explicit idea about the topic, but then your inexplicit ideas are just completely disagreeing. Now I'm fishing. Oh my god, there are petals and they're floating on the thing. That's so pretty. Oh. Oh, this is a good season. Spring is my favorite season in real life as well. It's so pretty. Oh. And the more I stand here, then the more they do it. I think they're being generated because they know I'm here. That's really nice. Emotions. Yes. So yeah, you can have that kind of conflict. There is, I think, a sense that emotions always there is always some reason for them. That there's always something that they're trying to do, or they're trying to explain, or trying to avoid, or trying to seek. They're not just irrational. And if you can find those reasons, or find a better alternative to whatever those reasons were, then they can change effortlessly. Just like if you're actually addressing the real thing that they're referring to, then of course they'll change, because then you're just giving them a better alternative. I think emotional mismatch is quite common. Like, you often get, so for example, with, if someone you know but don't know very well dies, if you know someone who dies, then it's fairly common to have this experience of, or even if it's someone that you know quite well, but it's fairly common to have an experience of like, wow, I should feel really, really sad, but I just kind of feel neutral, or I don't know how to feel about this. Or what are other examples? So you can also feel good in response to a bad thing, or you can feel bad in response to a thing that you think is good. Like, oh, like, you know, you can get a promotion and it's the job of your dreams, and you've been working at this for so long, and then, wow, why do I feel terrible? That's also a fairly common one. Use your fists like Minecraft to cut down the tree, not expand your awareness. Can I use my fists to expand my awareness? I think I can. Challenge accepted. Tom Hyde. Wow, I'm doing it really. Like, I'm like, wow, my fists feel like I'm in the driver's seat now. I've got this controller. I control this character. Whatever my hands do, this character follows. That's magical. There's no cables here. There's no direct connection between this and the screen or the console. That's kind of magical. It's like when people see mirror images versus photos of themselves. Yeah, I think nowadays, now that everyone is taking selfies all the time, I mean, right? I wonder whether that's less common because people are more used to the both sides flipped. Ooh, if you love competing and are willing to practice in ways that aren't fun, are you violating the fun criterion? So for those who might not know, the fun criterion is the idea, well, like the basic thing is do what's fun, but the idea behind that is that what is fun is when your explicit opinions about what to do and your inexplicit feelings, intuitions, and so on are aligned with each other and they're not in conflict. So basically when you lack a conflict about what to do. So if you're not having fun, then that means that you have some kind of conflict. So yes, in other words, there's a thing that you can be thinking or a solution that you can find which causes you to not have that conflict when you're practicing. Now, with the fun criterion, first of all, I wouldn't say that, like, sometimes we can't find a solution. We're not guaranteed to find a solution. A solution is always possible, and you know that's always a desirable thing, and we can we should try and find one. But if you're sacrificing something that is an anatomical model? Sorry, hold on. Whoa, horror show. Okay, all right. I'm gonna make something interesting with this. Okay, goodbye. Oof. Right. Well then. Fun criterion. So yeah, so if you're sacrificing something that's actually quite important to you, then that seems like a worse idea than not doing that. And it could be that you are conflicted but haven't figured out a solution to the conflict, but it's the best thing to do at the moment. How do you reconcile problems are inevitable with being unconflicted? Okay, so... Ooh, what was that? Did anyone see what that was? Was that something I have or not? Problems are inevitable with being unconflicted. You can have... Okay, so I suppose when I said conflicted there to do with fun, what I meant was a very specific type of conflict, namely one where you have to act based on the conflict. So, another word for this is coercion or self-coercion or internal coercion. So the idea is that it's not just that you've got two theoretical ideas that happen to be in conflict with each other, like relativity and gravity, the two ideas in physics that contradict each other. So we know that one or both of them are wrong. But that's not an unpleasant it's not an unpleasant conflict. In fact, I think a lot of physicists find it quite fun, even as they're trying to solve it. But the type of conflict I'm talking about is where you have to act and you have more than one idea about how to act. Oh, awesome! 5-star island, congrats. I have no idea how to do a 5-star island. Don't tell me. I want to figure it out myself. Yeah, so problems are inevitable. So actually problems are great. Like usually problems are things to think about, things that enjoyable, like puzzles or things to figure out or whatever. Poof. Thank you for your service, faithful stone axe. And problems are only unpleasant when you are trying to when you're trying to act, and basically you're conflicted about what to do. Okay, I've said that like 5 times, so does that answer your question? Why is Popper so poorly understood even in philosophical circles? Was that Patch Bell's canon? Yes, I think the answer is definitively so. Why is Popper misunderstood? Well, so one thing is Popper deviates in a more kind of fundamental way than I guess other philosophers when it comes to epistemology. Like, I don't think there have been thinkers that have really questioned the I'm sure that this is wrong. I'm sure that there are some that I'm not aware of. But I don't know, maybe. Like, at least they're not prominent, that have questioned induction and especially justificationism. And so what Popper did was change the questions that were being asked. So he wasn't just coming up with different ideas from the age-old philosophical questions. He was also kind of saying, hang on, some of these are bad questions because they don't actually make sense because they assume something mistaken or they contain internal contradictions. Another thing, I don't know if, like, because another thing is that he claimed that he actually solved some philosophical problems, and I don't know if that hurt his case. It shouldn't. Like, solving problems is good, and it's good to be like, hey, I think I have some solutions here. Why else was Popper misunderstood? Another thing is that it's simultaneously very sort of simple, but has a counterintuitive step. It's sort of like, because, okay, the usual thing that people say is, that's totally obvious, like, you're not even saying anything, that's trite, and also that's false, when they're talking about Popperian epistemology. This is like a bit of a stereotype, but I think that that type of thing does happen. It kind of reminds me of how conventional parenting kind of boils down to kids are so gullible that they won't believe a thing we tell them. And I wonder whether in philosophical circles it's because conventional philosophers are trying to do something different. So the way that traditional philosophers, academic philosophers think is something more like there are a bunch of interesting ideas and let's see what are the consequences of these ideas, like what would these ideas say if they were true, but let us not declare anything as true, or if we do, then yeah, I think there is a lot of relativism in philosophy. Oh, hey Mark. I think many worlds is not yet widely accepted because people don't want it to be true. They want the world to be different. In a similar vein, I think they don't want Popperian epistemology to be true. Ooh, okay, that could be an interesting idea because I've had this thought that maybe justificationism is as popular as it is because it helps with authoritarianism, it helps with anti-rational memes and basically shutting down yeah, there's a certain type of shutting down progress or criticizing ideas. Well, okay, when you guys have talked to people about Popperian epistemology, as I'm sure at least some of you have done, ahem, Tom Hyde, what what do they say? Like, what is the, like, where do they get stuck, I guess, is my question. Oops. Spino. Right, so, yeah, one thing is that they think that Popper is only about falsification. Why? Why do they only think Popper is about falsification? I mean, that's definitely true, but then once you get past the, well, actually, it wasn't just false. I mean, okay, so that does often take time to sort through when you're, because often, like, you'll say, well, actually, it wasn't just about falsification, but then they'll still be kind of assuming that it's about only science, or assuming it's about the empirical method, and so you have to be like, actually, no, it's about everything, including morality. The tack I usually take is talking about error correction and saying, well, actually, Popperian epistemology boils down not to falsificationism, but error correction in general, or problem solving. And so if you think of all epistemology as just correcting errors, yeah. But then why is that such a... So another thing that I've encountered when talking about Popperian epistemology is that people, they effectively they go into empiricist arguments. So they say, well, objective truth in things like morality or things other than physical reality can't be true because we need to test everything. But it still doesn't really explain why Popper is so misunderstood. Another thing is, one thing that is strange is that for a philosopher he was actually quite clear. I think a problem... okay, so maybe here's a problem. His first book was The Logic of Scientific Discovery, and this was hard to read. This is, like, dense. It was speaking in the problem situation of the people that he was talking to, so it was basically addressing the logical positivists and trying to reply to them kind of in their own terms. And so he used much more jargon, he used much kind of more like academic philosophy type arguments. And like basically the book is just like really hard to read, but it's for some reason the most popular, maybe because that's where he, I don't know why, maybe because it's more specifically about the logic of scientific discovery, which is the thing that people care about, or I don't know. But in any case, because that is the most popular book, I think that a lot of people get misinterpretations just because that's quite a difficult to understand book, and so it's kind of natural to not understand it. Justificationism provides simple answers giving quick but shallow solutions to problems. Yeah, justificationism is also baked into the language. So when... Yeah, like when giving reasons for things, people talk about, like, yeah, what justifies it, and when trying to figure out whether something, whether your position is reasonable, people often look at the source of the ideas instead of what the ideas are for their own merits. So justificationism is really heavily baked into the culture. As for whether I've read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, so I haven't. Should I? Because, like... So I've heard that it's... Oh dear, this was a bad move. Eek. Am I going to? Nope, I'm probably not going to. Yes! Skills. Right, so I've heard that Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a popular philosophy book, and so my my academic philosophy wannabe-ness is like, should I really read a popular philosophy book, and is it good? On the other side, I imagine that it has some useful things about psychology, because lots of stuff that is sort of says that it's philosophy is actually either minimally philosophy or sort of philosophy but wrong or something like that, but then has decent psychology. So I would count Ayn Rand as another one of these. So possibly Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance would be nice in that way. Or maybe I'm just wrong and I'm just like very biased and I should read more stuff like this. If there's a particular chapter or bit that I should read, then I can try that. His philosophy feels very Popperian, as I recall it. Interesting. Okay, well that's that's definitely the way to get me to read something. I'm now nervous about shaking these trees before I... Oh, that's nice. There we go, that's why I'm nervous. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, that was just a failure. I took a degree in linguistics after starting with philosophy, and can agree that the sentiment that philosophers don't like their problems to be solved. What are your favourite musical instruments, genres, moods, songs, particularly those which mesh well with your world of philosophical thought and contemplation? Well, I do like me some Bach. Beethoven, also good. Prog rock, actually, is also fun. I kind of like it. It's sort of while I listen to classical when I'm in a reading Popper kind of mood. Prog is interesting because it does some somewhat similar things to classical music. So very long songs that explore themes in kind of much more elaborate ways than pop music. Also pop music. Yeah, I don't know. I like uplifting things. I don't like sad things. I guess that fits. I like Schlager, which is a Swedish type of genre from the German, which I think means something like pop music. But it's Swedish, so it's cool. Maybe some philosophers are so in love with their problems that they're afraid of losing them. No. I think I'm not even sure if philosophers have a strong attachment to their problems, but I think the thing that they have a strong attachment to is not settling on one idea, or not like saying for sure, okay, we figured it out, let's move on to the next thing. Like the stereotypes, like some places even define philosophy as asking questions which don't have answers, or asking questions where the answers are always changing or something like that. Which is kind of interesting because on the one, like you might think, well, surely this is oh, this is not the right watering can. That only need to upgrade that. Yeah, you might think that it is. What was I saying? Watering can distracted me. Right. So, always changing the question. So, it's like they're sort of basically they're being relativist, but you could think of it as they kind of want to be fallibilist, or they like the thing that they want to preserve is that joy of discovering new things and continuing to ask questions. And maybe the reason that they didn't like science in the first place was that they wanted to keep asking things, and because I guess because of the way science can be taught is sort of like, yes, we know the objective truth and here is it, and you can't really question it, whereas philosophy actually allows you to question. And so, like, heck yeah, that's appealing to people. There's a great paper called The Guru Effect on why people use confusingness as a heuristic for depth. Ooh, confusingness as a heuristic for depth. I guess, let's see, what is my initial guess on that? If you have to think about something and it's not obvious what the answer is straight away, then that could either be because it's deep and it actually does take a lot of concentration, or it could be because it's confusing. Is that the argument, or do they use a different argument? I have a classmate from Germany. She's obsessed with definitions to the degree that she will interrupt discussions to argue some words should or should not be used. Representative of some areas of philosophy. Yeah, so that's... well, I don't need to tell you that's essentialism. You're Swedish and you don't like Schlager? No. Hit music, okay. I think I've actually gone off. Like I haven't listened to any Schlager in since my Swedophile days. What's up with the eyes? Avatar looks unwell. That's because the wasp stung me in my eye. As you can see, I took medicine. So, I don't know, like, should... Okay, here's a question. Is it really a good thing for philosophers to think that some of their questions can be solved? Because I can imagine that they have a very legitimate concern that they don't want to just end the questioning. The thing is, I think that this requires fallibilism to really work. And yeah, okay, so why isn't everyone a Popperian again? Nah. I wish I had some like non-Popperians in the chat to can some of you just pretend to be anything but a Popperian, because it's sort of like lots of respectable people are not Popperians, so I want to give that more time and like take the argument seriously. Okay, what should I do in Animal Crossing? I've like done my dailies. I've picked the weeds. Oh, I can wash my hands. That was some dirty gardening. Oops. Oh, the tap was on. Well, it's cold water, so it doesn't cost anything in the UK. I don't disagree with there being philosophical questions, but at the same time, it's obvious that science have found at least a couple of good answers. Science has found, I mean also philosophy has found some good answers, like, the fact that slavery is not cool, I would consider there were several good arguments made at the time, as well as several bad arguments, incidentally. We definitely have a lot more sophisticated arguments now. How are ideas causally connected to the world? How are ideas causally... what do you mean by causally connected? So the Popperian take, I guess, is we start out with some inborn ideas. And when I say ideas, I mean interpretations or intuitions or sort of physical something, biological, yeah, I mean ideas might be a not quite the right word, but something like that. And then we have problems, we're trying to do things in the world, we're trying to learn to walk, we're trying to explain the world and understand things, and then so we do this creativity thing where we make guesses about the world. And well, we make guesses, I guess, about our own ideas and how our sense data interacts with our ideas. Account of free will from the critical rationalist perspective. Um, I would say that free will is something like the. See, when I just say it kind of without something to argue against, I'm going to say something that probably doesn't sound very convincing, but it's something like free will is the solution to the question of it's something about how to explain behavior, like how to explain choice, or how to talk about morality, that sort of thing. Like, there's a sense in which at all moments during my Animal Crossing game, I'm choosing what to do. So right now I'm choosing to spin around because I find that easiest to do while I'm trying to think of something to say, and it's an example. And I could have done something else, like I could have run around. And so I think the thing that people get tripped up about with free will is they say, well, if there is sort of strict determinism in physics, which I think there is only in the multiverse, but like I'm not going to go into the details of that. If there's determinism in physics, then how can it be true that I was just spinning for and that was the chosen thing? Ah, there's a spider. Oh, okay, I need to like focus on this now. Because this will bite me. And if I catch it, then I can sell it for much money. Basically, it's the deterministic thing is at a different level of emergence than. Wow, that was impressive. Oh, Flick. You know how to swing that thing. I love Flick. Alright. I wonder if I can learn that fancy thing. Hey Flick, do you want a tarantula? A snail isn't really a bug though. Yeah, I still don't fully understand this question about causally connected to the world thing. There's something about that I don't get. Like, if epistemology exists purely in abstract space of ideas, in what sense can they be about the world? Wait, why does... I mean, abstract ideas can have consequences for the real world. Or, I say the real world, the physical world. I think they're both real. So what's the problem with abstract ideas having consequences with, and even interaction with? So if there's something in the physical world that is causing me to be aware of different things, then it's going to change the types of things that I think about. Also, even ideas about physics are not physical. I mean, well, they are represented physically, but the abstract ideas of what the laws of physics are and what objects are doing, those are still abstract in a sense. There is the abstract space of ideas, and then we have particular ideas that are instantiated in our heads, which refer to those abstract ideas, and then those abstract ideas can then refer to either true or false ideas, as in ideas that are actually represented in reality. Abstract ideas can only affect the physical world if they are realized physically. Seems true. Yeah. Can the real world have consequences for abstract ideas? The real world can have consequences of the abstract ideas that we are considering. There's then there's the sort of the set of all possible abstract ideas, which I guess real world have consequences. Yeah, I guess that can't touch that one. No, is that true? I wish a physicist was in this chat. I feel like I might say something that would sound silly to a physicist. Come here, you. What is your view on social constructions? Are they abstractions that are instantiated socially? Yeah, that sounds right. Social constructions, so things like rules of politeness. There's also a question of what is the difference between social constructions and things like objective morality, which exist. Wow, that's an expensive tiger beetle. Objective morality, which exists objectively. So there's kind of objectively in the sense that it is the fact that currently people. Okay. There are different problems that we're considering here. There's one problem of how changeable is this stuff. So it could be that there are some objectively true ideas about morality which are not going to change because that's actually indeed the correct answer. Then there's stuff that that affects the current society and how people currently work. And it could be that there are some locally, objectively true things there. But it's only kind of true given the context of people have these errors. I don't know if that answers your question. Social constructions are extremely changeable. Customs, laws, professions. I mean, it's another, I suppose it's another body of knowledge, and it relates to other bodies of knowledge like morality and something like how to figure out the truth, which I guess kind of morality, kind of science and philosophy. So it seems unlikely they exist as unchangeable abstractions. Well, okay, so there's the abstraction part of them. Okay, so there are the ideas that are in people's minds. There are the kind of platonic form of those ideas. So it could be that by having a particular social custom, your the idea behind it, like, okay, say waving for greeting, the idea behind it might be something like you wave when you see people that you know but not so well that you hug them, but not so unfamiliar that you shake their hand, or something like that, or if they're at a distance or something. And there might be a way, I don't know if this is a good, well, we'll try it. There might be a way that the actual rules that govern when to wave hello, like there is something quite specific, but any individual mind would only be approximating that. So someone who is maybe less familiar with the convention, maybe in their culture they don't wave, maybe they're socially isolated. I mean, more than now. Sorry. But anyway, so they have a like a fuzzy representation in their mind, or they have a representation of it that is sort of approximates what this thing is, but isn't quite what the thing is necessarily. But perhaps if you told them, oh well, actually the rule is this: if they're 5 meters away, then you wave, but if they are closer than that, then you wait and then you shake hands, or something like that. I mean, not that clearly, but and so this is an example of the abstract idea does exist, and there is something that it is trying to get at. And it could be that you've only just learnt about waving, and so you still don't fully understand it. So it's not that it doesn't exist as an abstraction, it does. But there's a difference between the version of it that's in your mind and the version of it that's in other people's minds. And also, you could imagine a different set of customs around greetings. So, like maybe you would like do that or something instead of that, and maybe like you could imagine a different culture that has a whole different set of meanings behind this, and have slightly different situations where you do this, and this is all abstract. Like there's no actual culture that does this, but it's still kind of conventional, but it still exists in the abstract world as well. And there would be a harder to vary version of this kind of tradition. So you can imagine a bunch of traditions that are all kind of interconnected with it, and there is a reason, and it was because this used to be, because you used to, I don't know, we used to be, like, lived in trees, and so you did that, and so it's like a friendly thing where you look over the branch, and then it evolved from that, and so you just go like that. You know, like, you could craft an entire story like this, and that would have meaning, and it would have some abstract representation. Wow, she's been singing so long. Do you need some water? She's been singing the same song. So then conventions aren't arbitrary. Right, yes. I think conventions are not arbitrary. Some of them are more arbitrary than others. Like, some of them are easier to change. Some of them are convenient fixed points, like a thing that everyone gravitates to, and so that they can all be mutually intelligible. I think conventions can be improved, and this is why they cannot be arbitrary. I think a lot of conventions are going to be improved after the pandemic is over, or even during the pandemic. So I think there was a gap between one's online life and real life or physical life, and I think those are going to be a lot more integrated now. By the way, I'm going to have to leave early today because I have lots of turnips, and I have let me show you what I mean by turnips. And let me show you what I mean by lots. But I have like about maybe 10 more minutes. Or more if this is really interesting. I can't help myself. So this is, look, 100 turnips and 100 and 100 and so on. So that's 100, like, lots. Okay. That's a very simple math question. And then there's... I have more rooms now since I last did a stream. And then there's all of these turnips. All of them. This was my bathroom. It is now my turnip room. So those are all my turnips. And they're very important to me. And actually, those aren't all my turnips. These are all my turnips. I have a lot of turnips, you see. Okay, question. Luli, why are you hoarding turnips? What's this turnip fascination? Everyone who's played Animal Crossing will understand this. I get to sell them for a lot of money. I'm investing in the stock market, and prices happen to be good at my friend's island. So I need to go and sell all of my turnips before they rot, and then I'm going to be mint. $900 turnips, yes. Yeah, but did you get the last room? That's all I could think about. I think I've got something like... Actually, I should probably count them, definitely before I sell them. Anyway, back to philosophy. Taboos, are there things that should be taboo? I think... Probably. I think that taboos, at least currently, are a good way of... I don't know, maybe they're a bad way, but they are the least terrible way of solving certain problems. So, like, would I want pedophilia to not be a taboo? I don't think so. I think I'm happy with that being... I don't know, like... I think that it's good to be able to talk about anything, and I think that everything should be open for criticism, but I don't see the reason for getting rid of taboos. I do see a reason for being caring, I guess, to everyone, and to be like, wow, those ideas are really bad, but like, you are not just those ideas, and you can be a Nazi and like be good at painting or whatever. And then, so, like, you shouldn't reduce people to only their worst ideas, in some abstract sense, I guess, like, that, it's fine to do that in a, I don't want to interact with someone who has ideas that I consider abhorrent. Oh no, I missed it. Huh. Well, that was alright, anyway. But yeah, I don't really understand the big deal about taboos and them being... Like, in what sense is a taboo a bad thing? Like, do you mean taboo as in cannot be talked about? In which case I would say, maybe only very, very rarely. Very rarely. Like, so for example, maybe an example of a taboo in this sense is after the Second World War, you could not draw swastikas in Germany. And my impression is that that did indeed help with reducing of the Nazi culture. And so I think I'm, like, even though in general I'm, like, free speech, I'm like pro-free speech, it seemed like, given the situation, like, given the circumstances, sometimes that's an okay thing. So I guess I'm not blanket in favor of all free speech. I mean, another like typical example is shouting fire in a crowded theater. That's a free speech that I would rather people not have. And I don't think this is an authoritarian thing. I think that it's just that we're still figuring out how to have a society that has all of the nice things and doesn't have nasty things. Conventions have a history and an abstract nature, a reality and an impact in the world, and are subject to change. Yes. In aesthetics, any intuitions on an artwork being accessible and whether that's an important variable for art criticism. Yeah, I think accessibility in both. So if you think about writing, accessible writing is very nice, and you can get really beautiful but simultaneously really accessible writings. I think the same is true of both music and painting. So, like the best would be it has a richness and a beauty, but then it's also it's like yeah. I don't see why. Why do I think accessibility is good? I think maybe something to do with elegance or the fact that ideas that good ideas are things that you can like Feynman even says if you can't explain something to a 5-year-old then you haven't fully understood it, and so I think the same is true for art. In jazz music, some pieces seem to require a lot of prerequisite listening to appreciate the degree of heart-to-variness of solo, say. Is that relevant assessing an artwork's value? Yeah, I'm still not sure about jazz. So if I can be taught to appreciate jazz, like here's the thing, I like prog rock, but I'm not sure that it's objectively good. And I think a lot of it, like, I mean, even I kind of prefer the sort of the less wanky prog rock. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's doing something, but I like basically, if it is not accessible, that is a. I would have thought that that would be a problem, which is soluble, and maybe it's not necessary to solve for most of your audience, but maybe if you did solve it, then it would become more elegant. I mean, just like if you're trying to explain something and you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then like you don't need to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, but if you can, then it's a better, that is a plus for the theory. Okay, I am afraid I need to go and cash in my turnips. Bye, everyone.